I am counting down from 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Are back in the AFC playoffs. I know it sounds strange hearing that. And at one point, no one expected a new coach leading a team from a disastrous season the year before back into the postseason. But here they are led by head coach Doug Peterson, as well as star quarterback Trevor Lawrence. Hi, I am Earl Holland here with another Sports Refuge podcast live stream. And I am here talking Jacksonville Jaguars football with Chris Cappello, a fan who is across the pond. And thank you for staying up late on your end to be a part of this live stream. And I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being on the show, Chris.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for having me on.
The first thing I normally ask our guests when it comes to something like this is, how did you become a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, and how long have you been a fan?
I've been a fan from the beginning. I actually used to live stateside. So for the longest of time, my family lived in Florida, and then in Miami, and then we moved up to Jacksonville. And at the time, I was just starting to get into football, and all the neighborhood kids were like, "Do you watch football?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Well, we just got a football team now. So do you have a favorite team?" And I was like, "I do now," sort of thing. So, and I lived in Jacksonville for like the whole buildup of the team. Like, I think it was like the year before they got the team. So like 93 or 94, I moved there. And then I was there up, obviously 95, and then 96 playoff run. And then Easter of 97, I moved to England. And then I just stuck with being the Jaguars fan, obviously. I was never going to change or anything like that. And being an NFL fan in England, especially back then in the early 90s, the late 90s, early 2000s, it was real difficult to like keep up with the team. But, you know, you find a way. You find like specialist magazines or crazy late night TV shows that would show highlights and stuff like that. And eventually like internet at school and stuff like that. So,
and you had to think that fate had to follow you, especially seeing that there was all this momentum, especially with the purchase of the team by the Khans to potentially move them to London, especially have a lot of games over there as well, right?
Yeah, that was a cool moment for me because me and my friends, group of my friends who we've like all grown up together and stuff, they're all fans of the NFL as well, so they all followed. Like, there's like 6 of us, and we've all got our favorite teams. So we used to go to the NFL games down in London. My first game was I can't remember the year it was. It was the year the Denver Broncos played the San Francisco 49ers, and Akili Smith was the quarterback of the Niners, and Rex Grossman and Tim Tebow were the Broncos quarterbacks. It was a terrible game. And then we went to like every single game, like every single year. And originally it was supposed to be the Rams that were supposed to play like regularly in London, and they pulled out after like a year. And it was great because when they announced it, Fred Taylor was the guy that announced it. Like they, like around like Wembley Stadium and stuff like that, there used to not be anything there, and now like when you see shots of Wembley, there's like hotels. They built up the area loads, so they like basically did like an NFL stage in the parking lot, and like Fred Taylor was announced like, oh, the Jaguars are going to be playing in the UK, and I was like, yes. So it was great to see, and it was cool because the first Jaguars game against the Niners Jaguars game, me and my friends I made a giant Run MJD sign, and because my friends were all fans of Maurice Jones-Drew, they didn't mind holding the sign up because they wanted MJD on their team. So like one of my friends was like a Packers fan. He's like, oh, I'd love MJD on our team and stuff like that. And it was real cool. I was fortunate enough to do like an interview like this, and MJD was a part of it. And he said that he saw that sign. So that was always like a real cool thing because he liked it on Instagram, like when it went up and stuff like that. So that was always cool. But yeah, obviously as technology's gotten better and stuff like that, and interest has grown, the NFL in the UK has gotten it's gotten better. Like especially when they brought out like Game Pass, or I think it's season ticket for you guys, so we can watch all the games. We get like Sky Sports plays like it's usually the Joe Buck and the Al, or not the Al Michaels, Tony Romo announced games. I can't remember what TV stations they are stateside. Like we get them, and then we get like a different TV channel does the Monday night game, and the Thursday night game is actually shown on our Game Pass, and I think it's shown on Sky NFL as well. So you don't need an Amazon account because they don't show, the NFL's not shown on Amazon over here for the Thursday nighters.
Yeah, I can only imagine how drastically different it is over there, especially with TV over across the, I always say across the pond. I know that's always the first thing that comes to mind when you say that, but yeah, especially across the ocean. But one of the things I want to ask you, what is your most memorable moment as a Jaguar fan? Was it the most AFC Championship game? Was it the one back in the Mark Brunell days, or was there something else in between?
There's been a few. I've got different ones for different reasons. I like I said, it was hard for me to watch games, like, so I didn't get to see. I knew about the 1999 AFC Championship game and stuff like that, but I didn't get to see it. I literally only got to see like Sports Center highlights. Like that was literally what they showed. Like if I was able to, like if you were able to find like certain stuff. So that stuff was like really hard to find. I eventually found it and watched the game online or something like that. Or I think like the NFL did a thing like on YouTube to where you could watch a whole bunch of games, and I watched it, and you know, I wanted to be sick because it was just so heartbreaking. But yeah, like I have like memories of staying up until like silly o'clock in the morning the year after the Steelers won the Super Bowl and they played the Jaguars, and the Jaguars beat them 9-6 on Monday Night Football. 2017 was great because I was at the London game, obviously against the Ravens, and Mercedes Lewis put scored like 3 touchdowns on them, and they broke Joe Flacco. So that was always cool. I've been back to Jacksonville a couple of times, and my wife's first ever NFL game was the Thursday night football game where they wore the gold jerseys the first time, which is actually the shirt that I'm wearing right now. That was her first NFL game experience, and she got to do it in Jacksonville and stuff. Yeah, there's a bunch of moments, but yeah, the 2017 playoff run was fun. Obviously last year and the year before were absolute nightmares because it was just like um, when it came to like the 1-win season, it was difficult, and especially because I don't really follow college football that much. Like towards like when it starts getting into the draft process and stuff like that, I'll hear about like the highly touted guys or whatever. And, sometimes I'll find a player that I like and I'll see how, like, where he goes. And, sometimes it's like finger crossed he comes to the Jags. So, and I didn't know a lot about Trevor Lawrence. So, like, I asked some of my friends on social media, I was like, who's this Trevor Lawrence dude? And they were just like, dude, he's like Peyton Manning. Like, he could completely change a franchise's fortunes around. And I was like, oh, that'll be pretty cool, but we're not bad enough to get him. I was a big I didn't think we'd get Trevor Lawrence until it was confirmed that we were going to get Trevor Lawrence, if you know what I mean. I thought I was hopeful that we would get Justin Fields because I didn't even hear about Zach Wilson until well into the draft process, and I was like, who's this guy? What are the Jets doing? Sort of thing. So, but yeah. 2020, the 1-win season, and last year, I had high hopes for it, but I didn't. And then this season's just been a lot of fun.
I know the expectations coming in, like you said, it couldn't be any worse than it was last year. So how many wins were you sort of expecting out of Doug Peterson, someone who had experience making it to the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl with the Eagles as well? To
be honest with you, I know this sounds crazy, but I just wanted competence, if you know what I mean. I just wanted like an NFL team on the field. I wanted like 4 or 5 wins, like 6, would have been like on the high side, and I would have been happy with that. We went through a 1-win season with Doug Marrone, and then Urban Meyer comes along, and he's got this reputation of being like super, like a good coach and stuff like that. And I was expecting us to be like a disciplined team and a good offense and a vicious defense and stuff like that. And it was just none of that. And it was completely like, you just watch the games and you're just rubbing your head like this, going like, what are you doing? And I just wanted competence. So like when it was announced that Doug Pete, we were going through the hiring process and stuff like that, I was a big either Byron Leftwich or Eric Bieniemy fan. Bieniemy because of obviously him working with Patrick Mahomes. I wanted to see what he could do with Trevor Lawrence. And Byron Leftwich because obviously he's a former Jaguar player. So it would be cool to see the first-round pick quarterback who didn't quite have the success that he maybe should have come back as a head coach. But then when it was announced that it was Doug Peterson, I was cool with it because anyone that comes from the Andy Reid coaching system is most likely going to be successful. And a friend of mine who's a big Philly fan pointed out is like, look what Peterson did with Carson Wentz, and obviously won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles as his quarterback. Imagine what he can do with a real quarterback, a guy like Trevor Lawrence. It'll be fun to watch. And I was like, yeah, that's a pretty good point. And then lo and behold, the person was right. And it's just like, I was at the London game when we played the Broncos, and I was hoping for a win so bad. And, Trevor played awful in that game. And then obviously Trevor Lawrence admitted after the game, like, I've got to play better and stuff. And we were so low down, what was it, like 3-7 at one point. And then it was just like, oh, we beat the Raiders, and then we lose a game. Then we won a game, and then we lose a game. Like, we got curb stomped by the Lions, and then we went on the winning streak. And it was just like, oh, it'd be so nice to beat the Titans and just ruin their playoff chances. Like what we did to the Colts last season, win the South and go to the playoffs. So, and that was a killer game for me because I was up until 5 o'clock in the morning. 4 o'clock in the morning watching that game, so because of the time difference and stuff.
To you, what was the point in the season that made you feel like that you were confident the Jaguars were making the playoffs? Was it the Dallas game? Was it the win in overtime there? Was it for safety's sake the win over Tennessee?
The games where I was starting to think, ooh, this can be quite fun was Dallas. You know, Dallas are, I think, one of the better teams in the league. And I was hoping it'd be like the rest of the losses, like that. A lot of the losses that we've had this season, where it'd be like a fight, like Dallas. Like at the end of the game, Dallas knew they had been in a fight or something like that, and how we just played them tough and then we beat them. It was just, wow, this is fun. This is, what's next? And then obviously the quality of the opponents after Dallas weren't necessarily as high, if you know what I mean. So like Tennessee, it was just like, come on, we can beat Tennessee. Tennessee's is a walking hospital. So because of the amount of guys that they've got on injured reserve. So it was like, if we could stop Derrick Henry, we might win this game. And yeah, I just kept getting more and more confident as the season, after Dallas. And then obviously last weekend's game against Tennessee, it was stressful because obviously just the history of Tennessee and Jacksonville makes it an uncomfortable game to watch. And they play the completely different style than like what Doug Peterson is obviously building in Jacksonville. Peterson's got is a pass first team, and Tennessee's the run first team, and they pound you into the dirt and play great defense. So it was stressful, but the defense was started to step up, and Rayshon Jenkins made that strip sack, which it's very hard to not scream with joy at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, or whatever the time it was. I don't think my neighbors would appreciate it very much.
What was the game that made you worried about Jacksonville's playoff hopes? Was it that Denver loss? Was it some other one along the schedule?
Probably Detroit. I was expecting us to beat Detroit. The way that like everyone on TV was saying, all the experts were saying, oh, Jacksonville could beat Detroit and stuff like that. The Detroit loss was probably the one that I was most disappointed in. Detroit and Denver, especially. And especially now, the Denver loss seems a lot worse than the Detroit loss because, the Detroit they played everyone tough. And me personally, I was kind of rooting for Detroit to make it to the playoffs. They've been through similar things that we've been through. But yeah, probably Detroit or the Denver losses were the ones that were like, great, this season's not going the way it's supposed to go.
Looking at the AFC playoff matchup, and everything's already settled, you already know who you're going to face. But who do you feel the Jaguars match up the best with in the AFC playoffs?
There's a lot of teams for different reasons. I think this weekend's game, Jaguars-Chargers, could be a real good game because, Justin Herbert and stuff, but it's also quite scary because when we beat the Chargers earlier this season, Justin Herbert was hurt and they had a bunch of other players that were hurt. Like, I don't think Keenan Allen played in that game. So it's a scary game. Bengals could be interesting as well. I'd like to see Joe Burrow versus Trevor Lawrence again. That would be fun. Chiefs are the Chiefs are the ones that scare me the most because we lost to them earlier this year, and it wasn't close. They kept us at a 2-score game the entire game. So, and obviously Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce are massive X factors that you've got to stop. And I don't think we have the the personnel to stop them. It would be nice if we did. Don't get me wrong.
And then you already mentioned the team that sort of worried you. One other question I had was comparing Urban Meyer to Doug Peterson. I know you were talking about with the hire for Doug Peterson, you were hoping just for competence. I know some people were saying, "Oh, a reach head coach who pretty much lost his way out of Philly." But I mean, what is the stark difference that you see between the Urban Meyer led Jaguars and the Doug Peterson led Jaguars?
They're having fun. They're enjoying themselves, and you can just tell that they're enjoying themselves. They're having fun. It's football. It's a game. He's making it easy on them. And I don't know if you ever saw the post game speech after the Tennessee win. There's one of our safeties, Andrew Wingard, said, it's so nice to be led by a general. Thank you for this. Thank you for this. And last season, Andrew Wingard was not one of the most famous favorite people among the fan base, and he's had a complete turnaround sort of thing. Last season the fan base wanted him out off the team, and they wanted him out. And this season, he's come up with some of the biggest plays for us. So it's just how they've bought in, and people who work for the team have told me that, like, in London they were saying it's a completely different thing. It's like they said the best way to describe it is when you go to work and you hate your job. That's what it was like when Urban Meyer was in. You just didn't want to be there. And now that Doug Peterson's in here, it's just like you like coming to work. You're working with your friends and stuff like that. That's the best way that I can see it, is just that everyone's having fun. They're having a good time. It's still important business to them, but I just realized you can't probably see me very well. Yeah, it looks like they're just having fun. And if the players are having fun, then the fans are having fun, because we're all winning. They're winning and the fans are happy. So,
looking to the Super Bowl prediction, who do you have coming out of the AFC? Who do you have coming out of the NFC? Who wins the game, and what is the final score?
This would be like the lottery win for me. Like who I really want as a fan. I'd like the Doug Peterson Bowl. I'd like to see the Jaguars versus the Eagles in the Super Bowl finals, and Jaguars win. That'd be great. But realistically, I think it's probably going to be the Chiefs and the Eagles in the Super Bowl final. Probably with Kansas City winning. I think Mahomes is just Mahomes and Kelsey's tough to deal with, but I think the Eagles defense will keep it close. So, the super fan, or the one that I put, like a couple pound bet or a couple dollar bet on, and for a fact it's never going to come in, would obviously be, the Doug Peterson Bowl sort of thing. So, and of course, I'd love to know how it would go if that actually happened. If it's the Peterson Bowl, and Doug Peterson is the most loved man in Philadelphia, but how would it come if he comes back and then beats Philadelphia in the Super Bowl? He's got a statue outside the stadium. Do Philly fans tear the statue down, or what?
The only thing funnier would be if he had Nick Foles leading the way.
Oh, we had him, and he wasn't that good.
What's the score that you have for the Super Bowl?
Well, we all like points, so let's go 42-38.
A shootout there. Chris, I really appreciate you being on the podcast, taking time out of your schedule, and especially with the 5-hour difference. Before we wrap this up, do you have any shout outs you want to give to anyone? Anything you want to promote? And what are ways people can reach out to you to talk Jacksonville Jaguars football?
I'd like to shout out to my guy James Carr, who was the one that set up this meeting between us. Thank you for that, James. I'm on Twitter at StofflessPrime on Twitter. That's about it. I'm not no social media influencer or anything. I'm just a fan that likes to watch football and talk crap to other fans when I get the chance to. But obviously, being a Jaguars fan, we don't really get to. So we talk crap and we take the abuse because you can't hurt us.
Again, Chris, I really appreciate it. What we'll do is once we finish the live stream, we'll do some post-show stuff here. But for everybody who's watching, we have one more live stream coming up tonight where I will be talking Minnesota Vikings football with David Krause. That will be at 8:45 p.m. But for everybody who's been watching and for my guest, Chris Cappello, I am Earl Holland saying thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in about an hour.
See ya.